have any confidence in law enforcement. And we only need to look at the results of all the unsolved crimes that we have. The community sees the officers not as the person that helped them and to solve crime. They see the officers as somebody who's a stumbling block and disrespecting them. And I've been saying for years that we needed to have a police chief that lives in the city of Fort Myers. Now, with all due respect to Johnny, he talks of this stuff about law enforcement. Well, we did a petition years ago to have an elected police chief who would be elected by the citizens of Fort Myers, and that police chief would have to be a city resident. We have not had a police chief that lives in the city of Fort Myers in the last 15 years. If I'm on the city council, I will not vote to confirm anyone, as the charter allows the city council to confirm the police chief. Anyone that does not live in the city of Fort Myers, it will be written in the contract that the police chief will have to live in the city, and I prefer them to live in Dunbar.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Streets.
Yeah, I have just a rebuttal.
Well, you still haven't answered the question yet, so you can, you have the opportunity right now.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, let me talk about sensitivity as we debate on the trust, the transparency within our police department. Those men and women chose to serve and protect. Now, we do know we have some issues, but let's not indict the whole police department. Let's not indict the whole community. We have some issues, and we work to work those issues out. That's why we have council members. That's why you have people that will listen to your concerns and run interference to make sure that those conditions that we do have in our police department are taken care of. And here's the thing about that. And I've said this to many a times, when you have a condition, whether it's in the police department or in your community, and you don't take care of that condition, it becomes a problem. And sometimes we're not experienced enough, and I said this before, when 38 police officers worked out, I was the first one that said, oh my God, this is going to be a problem in a few years. So I even talked about participatory management. Chief, your experienced people walked out. We got young people who are flying at night without a radar. So what can I do? What do we need to do? Let's get people on board. Let's get the other agencies to work together. And I still continue to say that because that's what you need. Experience is everything. So we can't indict the police department. We got some mishaps, but we also, like a young man 14 years of age told me too, we got some good police officers, but we got some bad people in our community. And we need to look at that. So let's not blame them, or, it's not them, it's not us, it's we have to work these things out. And I have taken the lead to do those things, and I still will take the lead because, like I say, everything is in writing. I always have a report. Chief, it's not working. Mr. City Manager, it's not working. What can we do? Well, my thing is, I never give up. I was probably their worst enemy for the right reason. So I'm not going to stand here and indict the entire police department because those folk are dedicated and truly committed.
Thank you. Mr. Bianco, you have the opportunity for rebuttal.
Excellent. Well, as a former state trooper myself, I don't think anywhere in the answers that we indicted anybody. The question was about trust, and I think foremost the answer was that there is a lack of trust in our current police department. That is not indict any of the current police officers. That's a leadership issue. The same exact way, if you're talking about an organization, if there's an issue within the organization that people are having a lack of trust for, it's about the leadership itself. I spoke to a young police officer the other day, and we addressed many different concerns that they have as well. We have to remember that we also have a police force that we must support the police officers just as much as we must support the community that it's serving. Without the support of the police officers, they don't have the ability or the drive to support the community. So I don't think there's anywhere in there that was indicting anybody, that was not mentioned at all, that there was any indictment of any of the police officers. The question was, is there a lack of trust in the police department? And the answer to that is, at this time, yes, so we must address that trust issue.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, you will answer this question first. What can be done to keep children from being shot and killed in your ward's neighborhoods?
Well, I believe there are lots of things that can be done to address violence in our community. On my palm card that is available out in the lobby, I talk about investing in the Police Athletic League. Under Councilman Streets' leadership, They have not received the funding that it deserves, and police officers are not participating in the police athletic league like they should, like they used to do in the good old days. I believe that you need to start early, building a positive relationship between law enforcement and young people. If you have police officers who are coaches for football and basketball for our young people, and they're building a positive interaction with law enforcement from an early age, I believe you will set a tone where law enforcement can work with the community. But here's the problem. When Councilman Streets and members of the council pass a youth curfew after they've been having all these homicides, and you just look at this thing and you're saying, why do you pass a youth curfew when most of the people doing the killing are older people? What you have done with this youth curfew, and I think they need to rethink this policy, is you're teaching 13, 14, and 15-year-olds that they need to run away from police because they don't want to get a $120 ticket and have to miss school. So if you're going to talk about how you can solve the crime and violence, you have to, it comes down to what Stephen said, and that is building trust. If you don't have trust, you have nothing.
Thank you. Councilman Streets?
Thank you. One that has come from that department who has given so much to me that inspires me to give so much back to my community is simply this. When you look at, and this is what, when people say, well, Johnny just mad, I'll tell you why Johnny mad. All of these things that we're talking about now, the police department had that. Community, PAL. I ran a police substation with 24 police officers. 6 of those officers were assigned to the Police Athletic League at the Star Development. During my time of tenure, the Fort Myers Police Department PAL was probably, next to Jacksonville, one of the best in the state of Florida. And this is what concerns me. The things that were in place that we were doing to curtail violent crime, getting families involved, getting youth involved. We said many times ago, one Stars development is not going to be enough. Boys and Girls Club is not going to be enough. What we do need is the parental involvement, because that's where it starts at home. So, you know, when we talk about those things, and that's why I get angry to the fact that I'm not ready to fight, but I'm ready to say I'm going to stay on the battlefield, because this Fort Myers Police Department and the city of Fort Myers people have given up more than some departments have never had. So that's what we were doing many years ago to reduce crime, get our kids to school. We didn't have just a one-stop shop. We had a complete reservoir of things that to keep these children, because I drove the Stars bus to get the kids from one side of the state to the other. I was one of the coaches. Some of your people that are still there now in leadership position, they were the coaches. We had parents. We incorporated everything we needed to do, and we were successful. So that's why I get passionate when I say to the chief and the city manager, we are nowhere where we need to be, because we had all these things and we got parental involvement, but we started subbing our services to other entities that didn't work.
Thank you. Mr. Bianco?
I'd like to cast a vote. I think Mr. Street should be our next police chief.
I second that motion.
You guys do anything.
I don't want to do anything to make this city what it should be. If it's Mr. Streets being our next chief, then it's Mr. Streets being our next chief, because obviously he knows that police department in and out. He knows the wards that the city police serves extremely well. As a former police officer here, I couldn't think of a better person. But the question that we're addressing is children. Children are everything to us. Everything. We must invest everything we have within the budgets of this city to protect our children over any other things that we're even thinking, over any infrastructure, over any, over any commitments downtown. The first thing that we must address is a pure commitment to all of our children in the entire city of Fort Myers. Not just 4 blocks, not 5 blocks, but as a city council that represents every single children. Give our children of Dunbar the chance to go to the high school that was first rated and certified by Microsoft to be Microsoft certified. That's one of 15 in the entire country to be certified by Microsoft. That's one of 74 in the whole world to be certified by Microsoft. give them the chance to attend that school. I spoke to a girl over this, a 16-year-old girl this morning when I was going door to door at a home over on Price Street. She has a deep love for math. And she spoke so highly of the programs that they have, and she has such goals and aspirations when it came to math. And she finished the conversation, she said, thank Jesus that we have such a great program here at Dunbar that can support what I love and what I'm passionate about, and that's math. We must do everything we possibly can within our police force, within our community, and our council to protect our children.
Thank you. Anthony, you have an opportunity for rebuttal.
I think Johnny would have been a great police chief. I think Johnny is a very lousy city council. As you listen to...
All right, please allow him to finish his answer.
As I said, he's a lousy city council person. As you heard him talking about what they used to do when he worked in the police department, man, that's been 15 years ago. Our kids are dying now on the streets of Portland. We don't need you to talk about the golden oldies. We need you to talk about what policy prescriptions that you have now. And I don't believe, if you look at Johnny Streets' record over the last 8 years, he has any subscriptions to any of the problems facing our community. And other council members will tell you he's all talk and no action.
Thank you. Councilman Streets, this question will be yours first. What is your opinion of a plan proposed by Councilwoman Carolyn Watson to implement a gun buyback program in an effort to reduce violent crime in the city?